The girl asked if everything was okay, but he quickly told her to wait. Then she happily remarked how sweet a friend was, and, embarrassed, he awkwardly agreed, trying not to show his confusion. After this, the cheerful interlocutor, holding the jar in her hands, delightedly noted that the color perfectly matched the angel's eyes, and the person standing next to her was attentive to her words, as if evaluating what was said. Meanwhile, the hero's memory flashed with a sudden memory. He realized that he had lived before and died of exhaustion at the age of 5, being an orphan named Achabai, lying exhausted on the floor of a dilapidated house. Soon, one of her loved ones asked if she was okay after the loud noise, and another worriedly asked if she had hurt herself, and both showed genuine concern for each other. The boy then assured her that he was fine, but one of the girls cautiously asked if he was overtired, offering to cool his forehead, to which the third participant in the scene concluded that if he could argue, then everything was fine. Afterwards, he told the youngest to stay home and promised to find food himself, reminding her not to overexert herself and to return quickly. The girl thanked him anxiously, and the one standing behind her comforted her with a gentle touch, while her companion urged her onward, advising her to proceed with caution. Then he exhaled heavily, looking around as if trying to remember something, but his head was in disarray. A voice came from the darkness, and the hero admitted that his memory was foggy, deciding to first clear his thoughts. Meanwhile, the short-haired girl realized that she had been reborn in another world, but she could not remember anything about her previous life. Her past seemed distant and vague. Gradually, she remembered that she had once lived in a world of science, where magic did not exist, and now she found herself in the body of an energetic child from the slums. The little figure explained that her name was Achabai, even though she didn't even have a real name. She then pointed to 2 smiling companions who had gone off to look for food. The girl wondered whether the heroes of the tales possessed magic or a special gift, but suddenly she exclaimed that her own status had activated, and her heart began to beat faster. It soon became clear that Achabai was an emaciated 5-year-old human girl with no magic, but with the imagination creativity skill, which could only be used once a day. This discovery delighted her, as it gave her hope of changing everything. Then the hero learned that his real name should have been Ichibi, and next to him, a tiny girl admitted that she, too, was deprived of magic, but dreamed of learning to use this gift. The skinny boy, still weakened by hunger, wondered if his ability meant he could create any object from his imagination, but noted that it was a first-level ability and only worked once a day. After some thought, he wondered what he wanted most now, but realized that with such a limitation, he had to choose wisely and not waste the opportunity. Then, looking around the wretched ruins, he admitted that he was poor and lived in the slums, deciding that money would be his most useful creation. This statement astonished his companion. The girl lay motionless on the floor, feeling weak and unable to believe her eyes. She'd never seen money before. The thought of poverty pierced her heart again, and she quietly asked herself what to do now. Meanwhile, the boy, also sprawled on the floor, was thinking about hunger and trying to imagine what it would be like to have tasty food, since he hadn't eaten anything filling in all his time here. Then his imagination took him back to the dishes of his former life, and he decided that perhaps it was enough to simply imagine the images that remained in his memory. After this, the girl began to think about what kind of filling and delicious dish to prepare, imagining how 2 happy children were enjoying the food, and reminded herself not to forget about Nina and Onaya. The little girl excitedly imagined a glowing bag of rice, on which the origin and price were indicated, and, imagining the taste, she enthusiastically exclaimed how delicious it must be, her eyes shining with joy. Then the other girl joyfully greeted the returning boy, excitedly showing him her find, and then rushed into his arms, anxiously asking if he had a headache and if he was lonely. After this, the little girl assured him with a smile that she was fine, and the owner of long hair admitted that she still worries about him, even when she collects wild plants nearby. A cheerful girl proudly showed off a bag labeled rice, while the other 2 looked at each other in confusion, not understanding whether the bag itself or what was inside was edible. Then a discussion began about the strange symbol with the inscription rice. One asked what it meant and where it came from, and another tried to explain the origin of this name. After this, the girl said with a smile that she had used her skill to create an object, which caused surprise and delight among her comrades, while one of them stepped aside, thinking about the nature of her ability. Achabai, beaming with delight, praised her friend, amazed that she was able to use the skill so effectively, and the latter only smiled modestly, avoiding unnecessary attention. Then he noticed the moisture in her eyes and asked if she was crying, but she quietly said she was just remembering something from the past. After that, they moved on to talking about food and decided it was time to get cooking. The girl cheerfully explained how to cook rice. You need to pour the grains into a pot, add water, and wait until it evaporates, then the rice will turn out soft and sweet. After discussion, they came to the decision to start cooking. She calmly collected the ingredients, and he, with a concentrated look, began to make a fire, determined to see the job through to the end. At this time, the girl with long hair smiled softly, summoning water with magic and realizing that the memories of her past life were gradually beginning to return. The guy confidently demonstrated his fire spell, and she watched with admiration and slight envy, dreaming of one day becoming a real sorceress herself. Meanwhile, the pot was boiling, and the process of cooking rice resembled a ritual. One explained how to properly monitor the steam, and the other two enthusiastically commented on the aroma, asking if they could try it yet. The pink-haired girl excitedly promised to cook the best rice in the world, but suddenly froze, and the boy asked with a smile why she was acting so strangely, noticing the saliva on her lips. After a while, 3 plates of rice and simple side dishes appeared on the table. The 3 of them, beaming with impatience, sat down to eat and happily took their first spoonfuls. 2 friends enthusiastically admired the sweetness and tenderness of the dish, and the third, barely holding back tears, proclaimed that rice is the greatest discovery that needs to be shared with the whole world. After the meal, they looked happy and full, and someone thanked Achabai for the wonderful food, reminding her that it was her efforts that made this day special. Then the boy joyfully called out to her, and she responded with a warm smile, quietly adding that she should rather be thanking him for the opportunity to share this moment with them. The child thoughtfully recalled how, even in the poverty and danger of the slums, 2 kind people took him in, holding his hands and promising that together it would be easier for them to survive everything. 3 children, holding each other's hands, walked forward, and one said it was too dangerous to stay there. Then the others agreed, deciding that what lay ahead was not only hunger but also a chance for a new life. He recalled scenes from his past life and realized how terrible the conditions in the slums were. No clean water, no proper food, and constant malnutrition made the bodies weak and exhausted. Then the story reminded us of the brevity of human life in such places. Illnesses come suddenly, and death lurks around every corner like a rat lying motionless against the wall. After this, the girl thought with alarm that they needed to get out of here at any cost, and decided to use her memories from her past life to find a way to salvation in this city. She was thinking about how to use the skill of imaginative creation to get out of poverty, and decided to start with the most important thing, to understand how the money system works in this world. Meanwhile, having gathered her strength, she vowed to succeed and use her gift to make Nin and Onaya, those who had been by her side from the very beginning, happier. Then she happily called the little girl cute, and the boy asked with interest if this was a new game, after which the girl raised her hand up with sincere delight. The next morning, the younger one turned to her older brother with curiosity and asked how she could earn money, looking at him with hope and impatience. They started talking about earning money. One suggested selling valuables in a shop, and the other cautiously asked if it would be possible to just get a job so that everything would be honest. Then the guy explained that people from the slums were forbidden from working officially, to which the tiny figure next to him muttered that discrimination was very bad and stupid. He thought for a moment, realizing that if they couldn't work, then all they could do was sell what they had obtained: herbs, nuts, fruits, and, in extreme cases, even the meat of rabbits or mice, if they managed to catch them. While the others discussed, he imagined hunting and gathering supplies, imagining how he could make money from salt, spices or sweets, enjoying the memory of the taste of rice. He then wondered how to make sure the traders wouldn't suspect their origins, and decided that they should focus on what they could get and sell without asking any questions. Soon the girl with a joyful cry showed a jar filled with light honey, which caused genuine surprise in the boy, and the other praised her for her resourcefulness. She proudly explained that inside was honey stored in a glass container, and this shocked both of them, because the transparent vessel with golden liquid looked magical. Kyle then eagerly suggested selling their new treasure, but Achabai doubted the plan, and the other two exchanged worried glances, unsure if it was worth the risk. They looked at the sparkling bottle with a painted bee, amazed at its beauty, because none of them had ever seen such pure glass. However, she was worried that if she brought such a thing to the shop, the seller might suspect theft, and the guy agreed, remembering how rare and expensive glass was considered in their world. Then the boy suggested pouring the contents into several small vessels so as not to attract attention, and the girl nodded, hope flashed in her eyes, and a joyful cry from their friend was heard from behind. After that, he warned her that she shouldn't choose the first shop she came across. Some owners are friendly, while others can deceive her, which made her frown, trying to figure out who to trust. They soon found themselves at the back door of Joshua's shop. The boy explained that customers were more readily admitted through the back door, that way, they wouldn't disturb the locals, and the two girls nodded silently, agreeing with the plan. The girl cautiously inquired if the shop was friendly, to which the boy replied that they sometimes gave them leftovers. At that moment, the owner, a woman named Jane, appeared, asking in surprise what had brought them there. Then the girl hesitantly approached her, asking her to buy their goods, and the young man wondered to himself why Neen looked so tense, remembering the recent incident. After that, she timidly held out a jar of honey, explaining that it was a sweet they wanted to sell. The woman perked up, happily asked to try it, and the girl allowed her to lick a drop. Jane enthusiastically praised the taste and appearance of the honey, then asked if she could buy it. Meanwhile, another group member worriedly wondered about the value of the glass jar the product came in. The girl with the ponytail assured them she would return the vessel after weighing it and carefully pour the honey into another. Everyone agreed, and the youngest girl asked if the woman was kind, to which Neen smiled and replied affirmatively, while her tired companion sat down on the box, exhaling heavily. Then someone apologized for the delay, and the guys started discussing how other stores treated them with disregard, often not even bothering to honestly weigh the goods. Jane explained that the local currency was called a ryrus, specifying its value and mentioning that she'd consulted with her husband. The two listened in amazement until someone calculated that the total came to 196 ryrus. Hearing this, two of the boys cried out joyfully, not believing in their luck, and began to ask again whether everything had really been calculated correctly, because the amount seemed too large. The woman thanked the children with a smile for the goods, and they bowed politely in return. The boy thought he didn't know the exact value of the money, but the deal was undoubtedly profitable, and he happily noted that they now had real coins. After this, the two happy children sincerely thanked Achabai, because thanks to her resourcefulness, they would be able to eat meat today, beaming with joy with pieces of food in their hands. In front of them stood a plate of white rice and field mouse meat, and the girl warmly recalled how she learned to cook such a dish at a street stall, thanking her comrades for the successful negotiations. Then the narrator noted that 1 ryrus is equal to a small copper coin. It is enough to buy a round loaf of bread the size of a palm, after which the heroine began to mentally calculate the profit. Kyle was completely amazed to realize that their honey had sold for almost 20,000 yen by local standards, imagining shimmering money in that very jar before his eyes. The boy and girl looked at each other in bewilderment, discussing the high price, and the small figure next to them patiently explained the difference in cost, adding that she had clarified everything with Neen and Onaya. During dinner, the girl remarked with a smile that the food was incredibly tasty, and the boy agreed, adding that it had been a long time since they had last eaten meat. After that, she hesitantly bit off a piece of dried field mouse meat, forcing herself to chew, because she needed to replenish her protein, while remembering the hungry past from her previous life. The girl carefully tasted the meat and was surprised by its rich flavor, while the boy worriedly asked if it had gone bad. She explained that the slight saltiness and sweetness created a wonderful combination. The next morning, the short-haired girl ate yesterday's black bread with dried meat and asked her older brother to listen to her, because she had an important thought. They asked warily what had happened, and she admitted that she was worried about their future, because if everything was left as it was, they would forever remain prisoners of the slums. Then she confidently said that they needed to set a goal and begin changing their lives gradually, step by step. The two listened attentively, wondering where to begin and what real change meant. The girl insisted that they first need to clean themselves up, and the boy agreed without objection. Then they both suddenly realized with horror how dirty they had become recently. Afterwards, they awkwardly apologized to each other. One admitted that she looked like a real slob, and the other regretted that he had said it too directly. They then discussed how, if they dressed neatly, they might be perceived as regular customers, but their appearance still prevented them from entering stores. Then the girl cheerfully suggested starting with the simplest thing, washing up. He thoughtfully asked how exactly they could cleanse themselves, and she calmly explained that the body needed to be washed every day, and clothes needed to be washed as often as possible, especially after eating. Then the girl with long hair wondered what they should change into if everything was wet, and the short-haired girl suggested using yesterday's money to buy at least simple clothes and look decent. A little while later they were already standing at the counter in the slums. The girl was admiringly examining the things on display, and the young man felt a strange excitement, looking at the new things. She thought happily that paying 4,000 yen for used clothes wasn't so bad, because after washing and combing they would look neat. Nin was beaming with happiness, and someone jokingly noted that she was a girl, and the guy admitted that he felt a little awkward, the clothes were too tight. Kyle felt dizzy and anxious, because they spent a significant amount of money at once. His heart was beating faster, and he wondered if they really did the right thing. He understood that 150 riras was a huge amount of money for children from the slums, but the youngest confidently declared that it was an investment in the future, suggesting that they all run away from here together. Then the older one agreed with her and decided that to begin with, she just needed to take the first step, even if it seemed uncertain. Kyle thanked Achabai for her thoughtful decisions and promised to try harder, and she silently decided to save her imagination for something more important tomorrow. After this, they noticed a large box and began to examine it with surprise, assuming that it appeared thanks to the ability, because nothing like this had happened before. While happily discussing, they remembered how Nin creates water with magic, and her brother heats it for bathing, and the girl joyfully exclaimed that this was a real bath. Cheerfully offering to wash off all the dirt, she invited the others to come in for a swim, and they agreed, albeit with some hesitation. The boy remarked that the water was perfectly warm, but added that he'd step outside for a minute, prompting the girl to anxiously ask why. Everything froze for a moment when the suggestion was made to take a bath together, and the guy quickly declared that he would take a bath later, wishing them to take their time and enjoy the warmth. Then the girl seriously said that only girls can swim together, since a boy is not yet allowed to do this, after which she invited her friend. She sheepishly agreed. Later, she quietly thought about why she had said the obvious at all, and the guy, left alone, wondered whether his thoughts were influenced by his child's body and other people's memories, after which he quietly apologized. The next day, they knocked on the familiar door, and the owner opened it welcomingly, surprised by their transformed appearance. One of the children proudly said that they were now trying to be clean. Then the girl showed a piece of soap that she had created that morning using the imaginary creation ability, and added with a smile that it was with it that they had washed themselves and their clothes until they shone. The woman kindly encouraged the children, noting that constant effort always brings results. The girl then timidly thanked her and showed them a jar of honey with a neat label indicating the weight and price. After this, the little girl hesitantly asked if she could enter the shop now that it was clean. The shopkeeper allowed it, but warned them not to disturb other customers and to remain calm. Then the girl cheerfully promised that next time they would come in through the main entrance and bring honey again, because this was another step towards their plan to get out of the slums. The next page listed a summary of their purchases. 3 pieces of dried meat and 3 loaves of black bread cost them 126 riras, leaving a balance of 118. It also noted that they had purchased 3 pairs of used shoes from a stall for 120 riras. After this, the girl cheerfully declared that even expensive shoes were a necessary expense. The guy agreed, and the younger one asked with a serious look whether it was now possible to consider that they had everything they needed to take care of themselves. The little girl then excitedly suggested that the money she'd earned might be enough for a night's stay at a hotel. However, her companions admitted that, although they'd earned a little extra money cleaning, it still might not be enough. Then she explained that it would be impossible to stay at the tavern without identification, and another added that without citizenship or guild cards no one would even listen. The girl was surprised to hear that one could only get into the trading guild by recommendation, but she immediately perked up when she learned that the Hunters Guild had no restrictions. After that, she quickly realized that starting capital would still be required to join, and the other two remembered that they had heard about a registration fee before. In the end, they decided to sell the honey again tomorrow and then go to the Hunters Guild, agreeing to first ask about the rules before acting. The next morning, the trio stood in front of Joshua's shop. One admitted he was unaccustomed to entering through the front door, as they had previously only used the back entrance. Then Jane greeted them warmly, and the boys bowed politely and said that they had brought a new batch of honey for sale. The owner of the shop, Joshua, greeted the children kindly, explaining that they were the same children from the slums who had been bringing him honey in recent days. The 3 visitors nervously introduced themselves, and Joshua and Jane responded by giving their names and expressing surprise that the children looked nothing like those who lived in poor areas. The girl explained that she was simply interested in the honey because it turned out to be incredibly tasty. The man, smiling, added that his shop welcomes anyone who makes a difference. Then the little girl thought that this seller looked kind, despite knowing their origin, and winked confidently, and the guy next to her tensed up slightly. Soon the jar of honey sparkled in the light, and the man realized it was made of glass. The girl confirmed that she intended to sell it entirely, contents included. He became wary, wondering if it was dangerous, but she enthusiastically explained that such a vessel was a great rarity, which only caused the man to raise his eyebrows in surprise. Then the guy anxiously asked if they would be questioned about their origin, but the girl firmly said that the ability of the little creator must be kept secret, otherwise they could be kidnapped. At the end of the conversation, the mischievous little girl announced with a smile that she had a special ace up her sleeve, which caused the two people standing next to each other to look at each other with genuine interest and slight bewilderment. The girl with the braid on her side calmly said that she understood everything and trusted the further decision to the guy, who respectfully noted that she knew how to think everything through carefully. Then he was a little confused, but another interlocutor confidently confirmed the sale and asked how much he was willing to pay, while the third one watched the conversation with curiosity. After this, the guy anxiously asked where they had been, which made everyone tense up a little. The two looked at each other, waiting to see what she would do next, preparing for her answer. The confident little girl proudly declared that she could not reveal trade secrets, causing the four spectators to be stunned, while the other two froze in panic and disbelief. Then the man reminded her that she was just a child, despite her adult reasoning, and she, visibly nervous, admitted that she was afraid that their secret plan might seem suspicious. Everyone hastily began to justify themselves, assuring that the goods were not stolen, and even swore by the name of an angel, clearly trying to avoid unnecessary explanations. Then two of them laughed merrily, and the others looked at each other in bewilderment. The shopkeeper calmly remarked that no one would put stolen things up for sale openly. He added that over the years of trading he had learned to understand people and saw that this was a rare product, since local glass was never so pure and transparent. Two of them cautiously suggested that it was all about magic, but the third participant blushed and hastily refused to explain anything, desperately trying to hide her embarrassment. Then the young merchant politely offered to simply evaluate the goods, promising not to ask any more questions. The woman smiled and agreed to wait while he finished his examination, and the three observers behind him breathed a sigh of relief, one of them even joking that the plan had turned out to be simpler than expected. After this, the girl admitted that she didn't think that things would go this far, but the guy calmly replied that perhaps she was just worrying for nothing. Soon the shopkeeper apologized for the delay and announced the price, and the two customers happily accepted the offer, 2,002 riras for 1,001 grams of honey. However, another merchant, upon hearing of the deal, cheerfully offered 10,000 riras for the jar, causing the three children to freeze in complete shock at such a huge amount. The girl quickly calculated in her head, 1 riras is approximately equal to $1, which means that 10,000 comes out to about 1,200,000 yen, a fortune by the standards of their world. Then the next frame showed the heroes looking at the pile of coins in shock, estimating that it was between 1.2 and 1.4 million yen, and whispering whether it was even possible to accept such an amount. After this, they looked with admiration at the jar with a metal lid, noting how smooth and transparent its glass was, as if it had been created by a master. The merchant happily explained that this was the best price they could offer, 12,002 riras for the honey and the container. Everyone looked at each other in surprise again, and the guy admitted that he was truly scared to hold so much money, but the girls calmly assured him that they simply did not expect such success. Finally, the little girl quietly added that by Japanese standards they felt like they were carrying more than 1 million yen, because they were still children, and the boy listened to this with growing excitement. He suggested treating their ability like magic, as Joshua had once said, and the two companions only looked at each other in confusion, not immediately understanding what exactly he meant. The boy then explained that the power to create objects was a shared magical link that united all three of them, and it was better to say that they only used it together. This idea pleased the girl, as that way no one would be able to target Achabai alone. The younger sister enthusiastically praised her brother for his quick thinking, and he modestly added that such things should only be discussed when necessary. After that, the story moved on to the building, where it was mentioned that they now had money. The girl thoughtfully calculated the possible cost of registering with the Hunters Guild and, deciding that 10,000 riras would definitely be enough for them, happily suggested that they go there without delay. On the way, she thought wistfully about the beautiful lady at the reception, and the other one discreetly admitted that she could use some wine, which made the younger one snort with a laugh. As they approached the massive doors of the Hunters Guild, the trio stood there hesitantly, unsure of where to go next or how to properly initiate a conversation inside. Meanwhile, the scarred man at the entrance was talking about recent incidents on missions, and the girl firmly decided that she had to protect Nine and Onii, until the younger one asked if a new game had started. At that moment, a beaming woman with a welcoming smile approached them and gently asked if this was their first time there. The children nodded in unison and admitted they wanted to register but weren't sure how. The older girl responded to her compliment with embarrassment, and when the woman offered to accompany them after the break, she only blushed and mumbled a confused agreement. Then Kyle quietly asked what happened, and she admitted that the beauty called her cute, which made the guy just smile, and the story smoothly moved on to the next scene. Soon the lady introduced herself as Irene, the guild secretary, and the trio bowed to her, promising to listen carefully as she began her explanation. The girl apologized, noticing that she had realized something late, and the others, watching Irene, admiringly noted how kind and beautiful she was, after which everyone exchanged polite thanks. Irene patiently explained that anyone over 12 years old could join the guild, starting with rank 1 and rising to rank 5. One of the listeners asked in surprise if there really was an age limit. Then the dark-haired girl joked that it wouldn't hurt to register right now, and the silver-haired girl panicked, realizing that she didn't have an ID and there was no way out of the slums yet. Irene reassured them by explaining that children under 12 could be temporarily registered, and the trio breathed a sigh of relief, though they discussed how they would now be considered students rather than hunters. The short-haired girl thought she was still a long way from reaching adulthood, but at least she could register. Then she timidly asked how much it cost to join. The secretary explained that with a civil card the fee was only 100 Ryras, and without it, 500, which caused the trio to exchange glances, considering the price too high. After this, Irene clarified that without documents the amount for 3 would be 1,500 Ryras, that is, more than 180,000 yen, but cheerfully added that there was nothing wrong with that. Then the girl happily shared that they did have money, since they had earned it by selling glass jars and honey, and now had 12,002 Ryras. The blonde thoughtfully said that without startup capital nothing could be started, and the other two agreed with her, after which the guy decisively suggested moving on and starting a new chapter in their journey. The trio joyfully asked to be registered together, each of them repeating the request with equal enthusiasm, hoping that their wish would be heard and accepted. A girl with her hair pulled back in a ponytail asked if she could fill out the form herself and if a scribe was needed, to which another politely replied that they could handle it themselves. Then one confidently picked up the pen, declaring that she could handle the recording, while the other admitted that she could not read or write in the local language, but remembered some Japanese and English words from a past life. While the short-haired girl confidently wrote letters, the boy struggled to write only his name and realized he'd have to learn to read and write. It turned out that Nina, unlike him, had at least received a basic education. The young man then revealed that his real name was Marco and that he was 15 years old, while the girl who introduced herself as Seal turned out to be 13 years old. He remembered being abandoned in the slums 2 years ago, not even knowing his own name, and he sighed softly, realizing how far they had all come. The girl suggested highlighting their names and special abilities in the questionnaire, adding that they could list their most powerful magic. Then the guy timidly asked if he could ask her a question. Afterwards, they decided to record their best abilities, but keep Achabi's skill a secret to avoid attracting attention. The girl thanked her friends with a sincere smile. The three sat down next to each other, intently writing out their names and abilities, and someone noted with relief that this time everything was going like clockwork. However, Atabi suddenly tensed up, realizing that she didn't have a name at all, and began to panic and think about what to do now. Two friends noticed her anxiety and asked what was wrong, but the little girl was afraid that she would be recorded under the nickname Atabi, because she had no other name. Then one of the older ones asked if they really should keep the nickname, but the other one happily said that she would think of something cute to replace it. A few moments later, Nine proudly said that she had written down AMU's name for Achabi-chan, causing the latter to exclaim in amazement, not believing her ears. The little girl froze in confusion, and the boy awkwardly looked away. Nina explained that the word meant friendship, but her friends still chided her for not consulting. Then the redhead laughed lightly, noting that the main thing was to see Nina happy, and the pen in her hands began to sparkle softly, symbolizing the completion of the registration. The girl at the reception handed them 3 registration cards, and the trio joyfully celebrated the beginning of a new life, after which one of them shyly asked what to do next. She asked for a recommendation for a place to stay overnight, and a guild member recommended a dormitory in a spacious area behind the building where first-rank hunters lived. They discussed a building with a large dormitory and an open courtyard where housing could be rented for next to nothing to support hunters with little income. The secretary explained that a spacious room cost 2 riras per day, but a tent space in the courtyard cost only 1. The girl thanked her for the advice and promised to return after the inspection. A large building with a wide courtyard spread out before their eyes, and someone remarked with admiration how spacious and cozy it seemed for ordinary travelers. They noticed that the courtyard was empty and wondered if the other residents were inside the dormitory, but the uneven ground made it difficult to pitch a tent comfortably and safely. Then the guy offered to choose between the room and the yard, but the short-haired girl happily declared that the open air was much better than the cramped walls, surprising her friend with her enthusiasm. They discussed the larger room option, but remembered that the rice they had prepared and the bath they had created with skills might arouse suspicion, so they decided that modesty was the most important thing right now. After this, the trio began to search for an inconspicuous place in the open area, until one of the girls suddenly disappeared into the dense thickets, forcing the others to call her by name. The girl suggested hiding behind the tall grass so they wouldn't be noticed. The boy supported the idea, and then she decisively announced that they should return home and prepare for the move in advance. On the way, she thought about how best to organize transportation, because she needed to take not only cereals and a bathtub, but also all the other everyday things. The next panel showed an image of a collapsible aluminum cart with puncture-proof tires, costing 89,800 yen, created using the ability Imaginary Creation. The trio looked at the silver object with wheels with delight, realizing that it turned into a 2-wheeled cart, and happily showed the find to each other. The boy, amazed, admitted that it was incredibly cool, and the girl just chuckled, thinking that guys always seem to lose their heads over shiny parts, tires, and transformations. She noted that all the luggage fit easily into the new cart, while her friend looked at the design with doubt, and the narrator added that Nina, as usual, did not express any emotions. Ami's character sheet was then shown, showing her exhausted state and her Imaginary Creation ability, after which Kyle and Achabai watched in alarm as she jumped up and down in joy. The girl exclaimed that her skill had increased to level 2 and could now be used twice a day, which caused genuine admiration among her companions. She enthusiastically declared that she would create something habitable today, and the other 2 enthusiastically praised her, calling her a true miracle. Then they quickly changed their plan. One volunteered to pull the brand new cart, and the rest began preparing for the imminent move, acting in a coordinated and energetic manner. Suddenly, Ami realized that her name had changed again, and when Atabi asked what had happened, the other explained that they would have to pay Irina for parking for 3, carefully covering herself with an old cloth. They unanimously decided to clear the way by cutting down the grass along the road and behind the tent, leaving only the tall stalks in front so that their shelter would not be conspicuous. Kyle wiped the sweat from his brow and asked if the plot size was right, to which Atabi, a little confused, asked if he could handle the job, doubting his abilities. The 2 noticed the little girl struggling with something and complaining that she could not create anything, which made them worried, after which they came closer to see if everything was okay. The girl wiped the sweat from her brow after clearing the grass and thought about how she could use the skill to create a temporary but mobile home, wondering what exactly she needed to imagine. Then, inspired by a sudden idea, she imagined a huge foreign-made camper van, and a gleam came into her eyes as a new creation was already being born in her imagination. The girl enthusiastically casts the Imaginary Creation spell, but soon loses confidence, wondering why nothing is working and irritably suggesting that perhaps the wrong position is to blame. Then she goes out into the middle of the field and, gathering her courage, loudly shouts out the words of the spell, opening her eyes wide, but immediately becomes embarrassed, deciding that her plan was too ambitious, and suggests creating something simpler, like a light van. She concentrating on imagining a solution, but is suddenly overcome by a fear of failure, thinking she will have to return to the slums. Then she remembers a cheap used minibus that she might be able to create. A moment later, the girl rejoices, a van actually appears before her. She remembers how she panicked just recently, but now, despite her doubts, she genuinely rejoices in her success. After this, she wonders why some things can be created while others cannot, and wonders if it is due to size or weight, soon noticing that the minibus is almost indistinguishable from the old cart. It occurs to her that perhaps it's all a matter of cost, since things that are too expensive cannot be created. Then she sees something unusual and decides to test her hunch in the future. Both comrades look with interest at the shiny silver object with transparent windows, and the girl guiltily apologizes for her fright, realizing how impressive the creation turned out to be. Another figure emerges from behind the tree, quietly explaining that the rare-engined vehicle is called a Porsche and declaring that it will now be their new home, causing the others to look on in admiration. The delighted girl explains that the vehicle is called the Light Pack, and the other two, amazed and curious, lean closer to examine the details. Then the guy shows off a compact shelter that can protect from wind and rain, demonstrating a miniature car, and his companion enthusiastically exclaims that it's simply incredible. He is amazed by the possibility of living inside a moving object, noticing details that look like wheels, and someone nearby asks with a grin why he is so frozen. When they arrive at the new location, the girl happily announces that this is now their home, but the other one anxiously reminds them that the guild workers might become suspicious if they notice that they are not living in an open courtyard. Then the most energetic of them suggests creating a camouflage, which surprises the others, but soon explains, they will build a tent from rags and boards, so that the entrance will look like an ordinary shelter. One of them pats Atabi on the head, calling her clever, while the other tells her how to hide the van and the bathtub so she can live peacefully and unnoticed. Inspired, everyone agrees to begin building a camouflage tent and carefully lay out their belongings, feeling relieved that, at least temporarily, they have managed to escape poverty. After work, the cheerful girl suggests going out for dinner, since the move was completed earlier than expected, and the guy nods approvingly, agreeing that the matter can be considered finished. Then the three of them decide to celebrate their liberation from the slums by indulging in a little luxury, and, feeling hungry, they animatedly discuss where to eat. The girl dreamily suggests stopping by the Hunters Guild canteen to try the local food. The others are unsure if this is allowed, but soon assure them that there won't be any problems. Kyle happily reminds them that they now have guild registration cards, and also confirms that there are 10,167 Ryris left in the wallet, enough for a good dinner. They head to the dining room with enthusiasm, but once inside, they are surprised to see the hall empty and assume that perhaps the evening meal has simply not begun yet. At the counter, they are met by a stern man with a scar and a thick mustache, who carefully examines the trio and asks if they are new here, since he has not seen them before. Kyle quickly shows the registration card, explaining that they only joined the guild today. The two companions look confused, and the mustachioed man listens with his arms crossed. He nods, noting that since registration was recent, he should wish them luck, and adds that new faces are always welcome here. Afterwards, the tense trio thanks the host, who, realizing that they want to celebrate the registration, hands them a menu and offers them a choice of dishes. They ask how it went, and the girl hesitantly shows the piece of paper, while the other two try in vain to make out the letters, not understanding what is written. She admits that the menu looks too complicated, and then the man with the mustache says that he can be called the master, while the boy awkwardly tries to talk to the little girl. A kitchen master who introduces himself as Mason is carefully considering today's special dish when a young customer asks him for advice on choosing one. He announces that today's special is a boar steak for 5 pyrus, and 2 listeners exclaim in surprise at the word meat. The girl excitedly asks if she can order this particular dish. The man confirms it's the only one on the menu, and everyone excitedly agrees. Then the perky little girl asks for 3 servings at once. The owner grins and advises them to limit themselves to 2. That's enough for everyone, and the group agrees, relieved to have completed such a daunting task. But suddenly the mustachioed man tells her to wait a minute, and the girl tenses up, deciding that this is a typical scene of a guild test, and prepares to defend her companions. Then he calmly suggests using a special chair, explaining that it would be uncomfortable for the baby to eat in a regular one, which evokes sincere admiration for his kindness. The young assistant chef notices that they have only ordered 2 portions, although there are 3 of them, and with a slight smile thinks that at this moment his apron and facial expression look especially cute. The company happily discusses how nice the master turned out to be, and the girl admits that she was afraid of him in vain, and the other adds that if someone is kind to Achabai-shan, then they are a good person. They then chat animatedly about their first dinner outside the slums, sharing their surprise and joy, while one quietly thanks the other, lost in thought. The girl in the center thanks both her companions, who respond warmly, and she anxiously remarks that without their support she would not have escaped poverty, but they assure her that it was her ideas that saved them all. Soon a tearful girl appears, shouting that there is no place for dirty strangers here and demands that they leave, while another one calmly replies that it is thanks to Atabi that they were able to get here at all and asks them to be patient. One of the people present notices the baby's eyes and quietly remarks that they look like the eyes of an angel. A woman standing nearby wonders if God sent this child, and the boy remains silent, frowning. He admits that he hates the gods and asks how long the child has been here, and she worries that if the girl is left alone, she will be taken to the church or kidnapped. After this, she hesitantly agrees, and he, still frowning, considers what might happen if the church takes an interest in the child. In the end, she offers to take her with them, which takes him by surprise. He hesitates, explaining that he is not a monster like an orc or a demon, and then, with a sigh, he finally agrees to take the girl with him, deciding not to leave her in the church. Then he looks at her with surprise and gratitude, and she smiles warmly, after which she happily invites him to join them, adding that even the scary boy who looks like an ogre will come too. The boy and girl exchange glances, calling each other's names, and she jokingly says that he is ugly, causing him to quickly retort that he is not them at all. The tearful baby is nicknamed Achabai-chan, and the two young people reminisce about how they once sat in the slums, not knowing their origins, until a man brought them food, surprising them with the size of the portion. Then the children begin to believe that they can survive in this world. They speak affectionately to each other and joyfully decide to eat together, enjoying a rare feeling of warmth and safety. A stern merchant stands behind the counter with his arms crossed, and a thoughtful girl ponders the scary name of the angel and who these strange children really are. The next morning, they discuss escaping the slums and come to the decision to strengthen their position, starting with accumulating achievements in the Hunters Guild, all determined to succeed. Soon the trio looks worried. The girl insists on going inside alone, since only she can read the tasks, but her companions warn that it is too dangerous, suggesting they wait. He then asks what happened, and she explains that most of the quests involve collecting monsters, animals, or rare plants, which seems questionable for beginners. They discuss the risks associated with capturing monsters and gathering rare herbs, concluding that such trials and magical practices are still too dangerous for children. The conversation then turns to the idea of collecting medicinal plants, but neither the girl with golden hair nor the silver-haired sorceress knows which ones are considered medicinal. Kyle and both friends stand there dejectedly, feeling that they have encountered difficulties right from the start, and one of them asks how to proceed. The girl wonders who gives out quests, while the other suggests that orders come from shops, healers, and ordinary residents, after which the first repeats the word quest with thoughtful interest. They discuss how the church, nobles, and officials place orders, but are unlikely to pay attention to newcomers, so orders from city stores remain as a viable option. Suddenly the girl perks up and suggests going to Joshua's shop, hinting that she has a secret technique that is only available to the three of them. The companions ask doubtfully whether this trick will work and ask to hear the plan first, but at that moment a calm welcoming voice is heard nearby. Joshua and Jane greet them with a smile, asking if they have brought honey again and happily saying that they are always ready to buy it. Then the group explains that today they have come with a request specifically for honey. Three friends excitedly announce that they have joined the Hunters Guild, and two adults congratulate them with surprise and joy, saying that it is nice to see new registered members. The girl lowers her eyes shyly, while the other happily remarks how kind the people are here, and the boy says with relief that now they have a chance to escape poverty. Finally, the girl thanks for the opportunity to join the guild and bows to Jane-san, and the others bow after her, expressing gratitude for being accepted without prejudice, despite their background. A girl with short, light-colored hair politely asks if the Hunters Guild can place an order for honey, surprising the man standing next to her. The man then agrees to take on the quest with a smile, and she explains that she cannot reveal the source of the honey publicly, emphasizing that it is a rare and expensive product. After this, one of the participants reasons that if it becomes known that the honey was obtained by the inhabitants of the slums, no one will buy it, whereas selling it through the guild will give the product weight and reliability. The girl suggests using the guild's mission as a cover, and the man asks with interest whether she simply wants to disguise the origin of the product. Then the boy admires Atabi's intelligence and foresight, and the man notes with approval that her idea is truly beneficial and not without common sense. The girl calmly adds that the guild's participation will entail a commission and reduce profits, but for the sake of reputation and future trust, these costs are entirely justified. Afterwards, two of the company passionately speak about their desire to live honestly, prove their own independence, and earn respect by leaving a mark on the Hunters Guild. The young man and his companion exchange slight smiles, after which he admits that he understands her intention and is ready to support her, and she asks with interest whether he really agrees, receiving a confident answer. The girl then enthusiastically declares that she will submit a request for honey through the guild, and the boy thanks her with joy, and the man promises that there is no need to worry about the details of the task. She then suggests calling the product Japanese honey blended, explaining that it's an unfamiliar term to locals, and therefore no one else would accept such an order. Two of them reason that refusing to deliver if there's a mistake is perfectly logical, while the other two nearby notice that everything ends well and praise Achabai-chan for her resourcefulness. Then the girl with short hair suggests creating something other than honey and asks if anyone has any special requests, causing surprise among the listeners. She begins to doubt whether she has said something unnecessary, and the woman standing next to her explains that in their previous conversations there were many incomprehensible and complex expressions. There is a moment of silence between them, and the woman notes to herself how strange it is to hear such reasoning from the lips of a child of only 5 years old. The girl again anxiously asks if she did something wrong, and the man awkwardly adds that their previous conversations did indeed include complex terms and demands. Then the boy and girl exchange tense smiles, remembering how awkward it can be when a small child suddenly asks adult questions. The little girl joyfully repeats the words of her elders, enthusiastically praising them, and two people nearby shout out her name in shock, not believing their ears. After this, the girl notices how the others are carefully studying something and admiringly praises their efforts, but a sudden question makes both of them confused. A girl notices a pleasant smell coming from the group and suggests it is their soap, while another explains that it is made from plants, not animal fat. Politely asking to see the soap, she arouses the interest of the man, who offers to examine it as a new product besides honey, while a voice from the depths of the building is heard promising to bring a sample. The group is excitedly discussing new products, honey and soap, and one participant notes that she hasn't used her imaginary creation skill yet, but plans to create both products soon. Then she thinks about how inefficient it is to create things one at a time, and an idea flashes into her head: try to create a whole box of items at once to save time. Soon everyone is admiring the box full of fragrant herbal soaps, and one of them explains that she made several at once using the imagination creativity ability, impressing the others with the gift set. She happily shares that she tried creating a set to get more at once, and the result was perfect, so the group decides to take one of each. Afterwards, they return with 3 types of soap: rose, lavender, and chamomile, enthusiastically inviting you to test them all at once. The girl admires the thick foam with delight, feeling almost like a noblewoman, while the boy notes that for the first time he has found soap without the smell of animal fat and admires its aroma and variety. Everyone agrees that such a thing will definitely be in demand, after which he begins to discuss the price, and she considers whether she can afford 3 pieces at once, even if it is only a trial batch. The boy then offers a price: 100 riru each or 300 for the set, and both girls happily agree, deciding that this is an excellent offer. The girl is surprised by the high price STO riru, which is equivalent to 10,000 yen, and concludes that this is a truly luxurious product, superior to ordinary soap with an animal scent. After that, she asks if it's possible to place an order for soap through the Hunters Guild, and the smiling employee agrees, while the girl happily asks for the names of the fragrances that should be included in the order. The girl enthusiastically explains that this way they can earn money and get achievement points for completing tasks, and next to it are shown the calculations for today's soap sales. That evening, in the guild building, little Achabai-chan is shown sleeping, completely exhausted after a day spent in work and troubles. Later, the group greets Irene, the guild administrator, who has come to accept payment for using the outdoor courtyard, and the woman greets them warmly, happy to see them back. The girl says that the rent is 3 riru for 3 people, offers to pay everything at once and asks if they will continue to live together, to which all 3 unanimously agree. Then the girl with the ponytail suggests creating a team for convenience and mutual benefit, explaining that achievement points are divided equally, and rank increases happen to everyone at once, which brings joy to the others. She adds that to register a team, it is enough to fill out a free form, but apologizes, reminding that the youngest will not be able to receive a promotion until she is 12 years old. After some thought, they agree that the idea is excellent, decide to assign roles, and determine the main focus: resource collection and delivery, to start with something simple. Then they think about the name of their association, and one suggests considering options, while another looks surprised, and the third asks a clarifying question. The girl remembers how easily Nina chose her name, but now she wants to hear everyone's opinions, deciding to come up with a name no worse, as if in response to the previous joke. She's deep in thought about naming a team that will bring good luck and enhance their reputation, while in the background are two quietly approving friends watching her focused face. One girl excitedly suggested calling their goal promotion, explaining that it meant achieving a high position and recognition, while another noted that her pronunciation sounded a little unusual. The woman with long black hair remarked that the word promotion sounded nice, and the blonde woman agreed with a slight smile, adding that it was a great name. Then the guy with short light brown hair enthusiastically declared that it was a wonderful goal. The girl noticed that everyone's accent sounded more assertive, wondering if it was a peculiarity of the language in this country. Then she noted with interest that the word sounded like a foreign word, not a Japanese concept of promotion. After this, the three friends happily approved the name of their team promotion, and enthusiastically vowed to try their best to achieve success together. The next morning, at the Hunters Guild, the girl was delighted to find a quest from Joshua's shop, and together they read the details of the request regarding the various types of soap and delivery conditions. They celebrated their success with joy, noticing that the task did indeed mention soap, after which she suggested asking for advice if anything was unclear, and the others became interested in what standing orders were. The girl confidently volunteered to explain the system of permanent assignments, raising her fist and winking, showing determination and self-confidence. Then Irene sat down at the table and began to tell the group in detail about the three types of tasks: regular, assigned and permanent, and everyone listened to her with attention and interest. One of them then explained the process for registering assignments, showing how to remove the application from the notice board and hand it to the counter to complete the registration. After that, she explained that regular tasks can be completed immediately, without additional procedures at the counter, which makes the work much easier. The girl clarified that it was enough to simply submit a completion or delivery report at the counter, while another participant asked doubtfully why a magical check was necessary. She patiently explained that magical verification prevents counterfeiting, as only the one who created the mark can make changes, which impressed the audience, and everyone thanked her for such a detailed explanation. Meanwhile, they stood next to the cart in the tall grass, one of them thoughtfully pondering the benefits of constant errands, while the other cheerfully called it a valuable experience. After a short pause, he explained that with such assignments it was enough to simply report completion, unlike regular tasks where it was clear who had accepted them, and this made the work less noticeable. The girl assumed it was Joshua who had placed the standing order, and the other girl happily confirmed it, after which everyone, smiling, decided to deliver the goods and personally thank the customer. The young man asked them what they meant, puzzled, and then explained that he had made the order permanent so as not to place the same orders over and over again, which surprised the three listeners. She sheepishly apologized for jumping to conclusions, and her friend explained that they thought he had deliberately wanted to spare them the hassle of registration procedures. The man politely admitted that he didn't know all the guild's rules, but was glad he had done the right thing, and asked to see the goods, to which both girls happily agreed. The next shot shows jars of honey and scented soap recently created by their skill, and the hero enthusiastically decides to evaluate them immediately. At the end, two salespeople cheerfully confirm a customer's order for various types of soap and honey, thanking them for their wait, and the scene smoothly transitions to an image of the store's facade under the evening sky. The girl happily asked if it was possible to buy honey for the same 10,000 riras, to which the man calmly explained that the price was not indicated on the form due to the cost of the glass container. She then enthusiastically noted that the amount was approximately 1,600,000 yen, praising the quality of the glass vessels, and the merchant calmly inquired how much goods they could deliver and under what conditions. The man explained that demand for their product could increase sharply, as they were already negotiating with major clients, and the two people standing nearby were surprised by the prospect of daily deliveries. He offered to sell the product to churches, which greatly surprised the young man, forcing him to ask again whether he was really talking about cooperation with religious institutions. The young man firmly declared that he had no intention of bargaining with the church, expressing contempt for those who worship money rather than God, while the determined girl indignantly condemned the greedy priests who exploit faith for profit. She wondered if the church really had such a bad reputation, while the man felt relieved, knowing that his goods would not end up in the hands of such people. The cheerful merchant asked the girl to deliver as much honey as she could, and she enthusiastically responded with a short "understood." The man handed them the delivery report, explaining that it contained a magical mark for receiving payment, and the three listened attentively and thanked him for his trust. The boy happily noted how attached Nina had become to Jane and the others, rejoicing that they would be able to visit the store every day, and the girl, with a smile, asked everyone to wait for their return tomorrow. Then she got a little nervous, deciding to stop thinking about unnecessary things, and the scene changed to the Hunters Guild, where a cheerful little girl greeted Irene, and she kindly asked if she needed anything else. The girl joyfully announced the completion of the quest, causing surprise with her speed, after which the boy handed over a delivery report, confirmed by a magical seal. The three children looked at each other with concern when someone behind the counter asked who they were, but one of them quickly assured them that everything was fine, asking if they had made a mistake. The cheerful woman congratulated them on successfully completing their first task and suggested they move on to the calculation, and the team sincerely thanked her, surprised at how quickly everything was over. She then began to explain the details of the payments, stating that part of the remuneration was withheld as tax and indicating the exact amount of the deduction. The girl clarified that 10% goes to taxes, another 10% goes as the guild commission, and in the end, 20% is written off, after which she asked whether they would like to receive the rest in cash or some other way. The three of them looked at each other in confusion, and then the woman explained that the Hunters Guild could store their money, acting as a bank for the members. The girl with short hair asked if the contribution could be divided into 4 parts, 3 personal and 1 shared by the team and, upon receiving an affirmative answer, nodded thoughtfully. They discussed the idea of dividing the reward in this way, and one of them explained that the common account would be useful for the future needs of the group, while the others inquired with interest about the reasons. The girl suggested using the team contribution to finance their activities, noting that she also wanted to save for personal purposes to provide for herself in the future, and asked her friend's opinion. She wondered if those who grew up in poverty were wary of the idea of handing over money to strangers, but the boy was quick to reassure her that it wasn't, recalling how they had to struggle to survive in the slums. He noted with a slight smile that for the first time he truly felt that they had truly escaped the slums, rejoicing at the opportunity to finally think about the future and make plans. The girl with long hair thanked her comrades for their understanding, and her little companion looked at her in surprise, calling her name anxiously, as if afraid that she would cry. After this, they unanimously decided to think about the future and divide the reward into 4 parts, instructing Irene to carefully process the contribution on behalf of the team. The woman behind the counter was touched by their trust and kindness. Someone noticed the glint in her eyes and asked if she was crying, and then the payout screen showed 11,120 riras being divided equally between the participants. When the task was completed, the girl thought about their daily routine, and the others asked what to do next, because it was still morning and the day was just beginning. She thought that after the return of memories of her past life, she was especially drawn to magic, but she sadly realized that she herself was not capable of using a single spell. Then 9 enthusiastically asked to show her their magic, and the 2 friends agreed, deciding that observing fire and water would help the girl understand the basics and learn to better control herself. She watched in awe as simple movements gave birth to miracles, amazed by the mystery of magic, and the young man, observing her ability to create things, thought that her power was even more mysterious. The girl admitted that she felt more energetic, although she quickly got tired when releasing water, and then everyone remembered how skillfully she poured water out of the bath, deciding that good nutrition was to blame. After that, she wondered if it was possible to use water magic in some other way, and suddenly she noticed a cauldron appearing nearby, and someone called out to her, seeing a glowing ball flashing in her hands. The girl asked her partner to fill the cauldron with water, and he readily did so, causing her to gasp in joy, and him to smile, amazed at the ease with which magic had become everyday life. One of my friends asked if it was possible to remove carbon deposits from the walls of the boiler, and another suggested trying it by holding her hands in the water to test the idea. She calmly explained how water seeped between the dirt and the metal, causing the plaque to gradually peel off, and Nina smiled admiringly, happy with the success of her spell. Then someone suggested using this ability for washing, since clean water could replace manual labor, and the girl raised her head with interest, struck by the simplicity of the idea. She realized that she was capable of using water magic in a wider range than she thought, and gratefully thanked her comrades for their advice, promising to continue training and become stronger. In an open field, the girl excitedly asked if the grass would catch fire while testing her new skill, but the boy calmly corrected her, explaining that the power was under control. Then, with slight hesitation, he admitted that he also possessed other magic, causing genuine amazement in his companion when she heard about his ability. The girl joyfully turned her face to the light breeze he created, explaining that it was a simple wind spell, and she delightedly noted how pleasant it was to feel the living breath of air. He said that he had only shown the wind and now it was the turn of fire, and she wondered why she had hardly used anything like this before, because such soft magic seemed very useful. He then lit a tiny flame on the tip of his finger, feeling a surge of strength and lightness, and the girl noted with admiration that nutrition works wonders and praised his efforts. He asked if her fingertip was burning, but she calmly explained that the flame she created was not hotter, so he could touch it without pain, which surprised him quite a bit. She then asked him to make the fire longer and thinner, and after a short moment of concentration, he pulled the flame into a narrow stream, causing the girl to beam with delight at the result. She enthusiastically asked if he could hold a flame in his hand, and he, a little confused, still agreed to try, deciding not to miss the chance to test his abilities. He then asked if the sword he was holding was suitable, and was met with an enthusiastic response that it looked incredible, because if one developed magic, one could obtain a real fire blade. The boy enthusiastically demonstrated the flaming sword, noting that stories about other worlds couldn't be complete without it, and the girl, admiringly observing his skill, asked to make the floating fire larger. She suggested combining the flame with the wind to make it fly, and he looked at her thoughtfully, wondering if he could pull off such a trick. After a short pause, he asked in surprise if it would be like a move from a game, and she just slightly raised her finger and smiled, as if urging him to experiment. Kyle then focused and summoned a fireball from his palm, causing those around him to gasp as the flames immediately moved forward at his command. Control proved difficult, the ball wavered in the air, and the guy apologized, explaining that his wind magic was still too weak, but he heard words of support and a promise to help with training. The girl noticed that his wind was still only a light breeze, but he cheerfully assured her that he would continue experimenting, trying new combinations of magic to achieve stability. One thought about how the combination of fire and wind could be used as a hot stream for drying clothes, while another imagined 9 washing clothes with water. It all seemed convenient and useful. Later, sitting in the Hunters Guild cafeteria, 2 of them smiled as they discussed how delicious their meal had been, while the third quietly reflected on her small body and how it was time to find something to do that suited her abilities. The girl called out to her brother, and when she met his gaze, she thought that she wanted to learn more about the world around her, since her ability to use the skill was limited compared to someone else's magic. She suggested that after the morning deliveries, when free time appeared, they could devote hours to practicing magic, using today as an example for planning. Then the girl thought about what exactly she should do, and her friend encouraged her by asking what she would like, and she cheerfully answered that she wanted to become the best in magical training, to which the guy readily agreed. She admitted that she also dreamed of learning to read and write, to which one of her companions offered to help, and a third reminded her that studying should be combined with training, since the guild had suitable courses. The mustachioed cafeteria manager explained that the guild did indeed offer various classes, much to the surprise of the nearby listeners. He clarified that they teach everything from literacy to swordsmanship, bows, and magic, which caused the trio of inspired children to look at each other and nod happily. The man asked if they were interested in training, and the 3 eagerly agreed, while someone off-camera chuckled and noted that they had been eavesdropping on their conversation for a long time. Then Irene confidently offered to explain everything in more detail, holding a glass in her hand, which surprised the others, and the bartender noted with a grin that she was already drinking, although the workday for her was long over. The girl with short dark hair explained that the drink was to celebrate their team's first success in completing the quest, and someone nearby smiled and agreed that it was a great idea. She then asked Mason to bring 3 glasses of milk and stated that it was on her, but the man hesitated for a moment, deciding that it would be awkward to accept the treat, since she had just finished her shift. However, the confident interlocutor raised her glass, asserting that she could work and drink at the same time, causing a man standing nearby to sternly remark that drinking while working was not a good idea. The girl with the high ponytail, addressing 3 attentive listeners, began to explain that there were 3 types of courses in the Hunters Guild, starting with the basic ones, aimed at everyday skills. Fyrn added that the latest type of training is designed to improve hunters' knowledge and skills, listing introductory and basic courses that help develop key survival and crafting skills. While they were discussing various details, the man brought milk, and the girl explained the cost of training and the conditions of participation, answering the question of who could sign up for the classes. The girl with short blonde hair was surprised to learn that one course cost a whopping 700 riru, and her friend with dark hair explained that each course lasted 7 days, 1 hour each day. She then added that the high price made training inaccessible to most hunters, and the little listener nodded understandingly, recognizing the difficulties of adults. The girl with golden hair confidently declared that even expensive knowledge is worth the money, because the opportunity to learn doesn't come every day, but the two nearby looked uncertain and remained silent. Then one of them enthusiastically listed the courses she wanted to take: the basics of reading, writing and arithmetic, law and system, as well as etiquette and rules of conduct. Kyle decided to sign up for a few basic classes, and his companions enthusiastically supported the idea and expressed a desire to take the magical course with him. The girl admitted that she wanted to start with a basic magic course, but didn't know what to choose additionally, and Kyle suggested adding etiquette lessons, believing that this would be useful in the future. Then another participant suggested taking a beginner hunter course to prepare for field assignments, and upon learning that the schedule was flexible, she smiled and promised to arrange everything the following day. After a short discussion, they agreed on a plan, with one happily declaring that morning classes would be perfect for them, while the other asked if they fit into their overall routine. A girl with short hair was advised to take a nap between noon and 1 a.m. to avoid falling asleep during evening classes, and was reminded that a good night's sleep is also important for learning. She later explained that the total cost for 3 courses for 3 people would be 6,300 riru, after which she thanked them for providing the glass containers and confirmed that they had sufficient funds. The cheerful companion happily declared that they would pay the entire amount at once in cash, and someone asked if they would like to pay in installments, but received a negative answer. Then the girl cheerfully confirmed that the payment would be in cash, accompanying the words with a broad smile, and then jokingly asked why it was necessary to smile at such words. Late at night, she imagined gift sets of honey and herbal soaps with prices and descriptions, thinking about how to improve their morning sales in preparation for the next day. The next morning, the trio delivered the soap and honey to Joshua's shop, receiving thanks, after which they happily submitted a delivery report to the Hunters Guild, proud of how successfully they had advanced in their careers. The team received a reward for completing the quest, 11,360 riru, of which each received 2,840 after deducting fees. After the paycheck, they immediately headed to the guild for classes, and in the evening, one of them wearily remarked that the night had been too long. In the Hunters Guild cafeteria, the boy enthusiastically remarked that there was much work to be done, and the two girls happily agreed that every day was now filled with meaning and brought pleasure. The girl was happily reflecting on how she'd learned to read and write, learned that their city was called Aurelia, and was delighted to now better understand the world around her. Then another participant recounted something curious she'd heard in the basic magic course. The girl nervously explained that their method of using magic was considered abnormal, which shocked her interlocutor, and the boy added that they used spells without proper training. She explained that when they changed the shape and size of their spells, the teacher became confused. He could be seen in the background wiping sweat from his forehead in confusion. The girl with long hair explained that interfering with magic after activation was only possible with an outstanding level of strength and control, while the second girl admiringly noted how gifted Nine and Onii were. Two tired characters reminisced about their grueling training, comparing it to a marathon at high altitude, but the footage soon changed to images of energetic figures who had noticeably strengthened themselves after improving their condition. The girl with long hair admitted that she was happy to receive praise from the magic expert, while the younger one sadly noted that the city residents still treated the children from the slums with coldness. The boy explained that he was now training in fencing, using a fiery staff created from magic, which surprised the girl, who asked if this was related to the swordsmanship course. He confidently promised to show her a real flaming sword one day, and his interlocutor, with slight hesitation, replied that she would wait. The girl with short hair imagined what it would be like to wield magic and feel the power, but then sadly remembered that she herself did not possess it, while someone was silently drinking nearby. She quietly noted that she was pleased with the success of all members of the advancement team, and then raised her glass in a toast to their shared future. The girl thought that Irene had come to drink again, probably because she really liked alcohol, and she wondered if she should one day create something tasty using her imagination. After completing the 7-day course, the finished honey and soap kits were displayed in the guild, and the girl excitedly announced that everything was ready for delivery the following day. The joyful heroine noticed that her creation through imagination skill had reached level 3 and could now be used 3 times a day. She wondered if her description had changed from emaciated to malnourished, deciding that perhaps it was a step toward recovery, and dismissed the thought with a slight smile. The girl pondered what to create one last time, using her last skill opportunity for the day, and then called out to her 2 companions, who turned around with interest. Achabai happily announced that her ability had increased and she could create something again, drawing admiring glances and praise from the 2 listeners. The silver-haired mage asked if they wanted her to create something for them, and the boy and girl thought about it until the latter suddenly beamed, as if she had thought of something important. The girl asked if her own wish could be fulfilled, and the other 2 happily agreed, while one of them wondered why Nina was again thinking not about herself, but about others. The girl thanked Jane-san and her husband for their constant assistance, recalling the kindness they had shown during previous visits. She confessed that she wanted to repay their debt of gratitude after the soap delivery tomorrow, starting with a trip to the clothing store. The boy asked if they had parents or documents, suspecting they were orphans. The children, looking down, quietly admitted that they faced abuse and neglect everywhere. The girl asked doubtfully if they had money and whether they understood how much the clothes cost. In response, the boy recalled showing his hunting permit and pulling out a gold coin, shocking the seller. One of the girls awkwardly admitted that she did indeed have a gold coin, while the other remarked in surprise that children couldn't possibly have that kind of money. Then the first girl quickly added that, by the way, they were clients. They discussed how most of the shops in town, including the shoe store they stopped at next, treated them with the same indifference. After that, the conversation turned to the journey home and their future plans. The girl called her 2 companions, then reflected on how Jane and Joshua had always treated them with a special warmth, unlike the other traders. She admitted that she understood this especially clearly now. The boy noted that they had helped them selflessly on more than one occasion, and the girl added that genuine kindness could be seen in the faces of Jane-san and her husband, even towards children from the slums. She expressed the hope of one day repaying their care, and the boy agreed, noting that returning kindness was a wonderful thing. The girl then firmly promised to keep her word, to which he reminded her of this promise with a smile. The girl laughed quietly, attracting her friend's attention, who immediately remembered how she had recently demonstrated something impressive on the way back from the store with a rude salesman. She sarcastically thanked him for the clothes, noting that they were too good for the likes of them, and the boy added with a satisfied smile that the seller was completely confused, although he looked satisfied. One of the characters angrily declared that he could not forgive such rudeness from the merchants, while the other 2 calmly admitted that refraining from responding in such a situation was an achievement in itself. Afterwards, the trio decided to thank Jane and Joshua with gifts, discussing the idea with joy and sincere smiles that filled the stage with warmth. Lyria pondered what gift would be best, and Kyle suggested an edible option would be more appropriate. Then she suggested that perhaps they should choose something paired and symbolic. The girl enthusiastically suggested making things that Jane and her husband could wear together, and her short-haired companion immediately understood the idea she had in mind. The next day, at Joshua's shop, the man handed over the delivery report with a kind smile and thanked the guys for their hard work, and they happily reciprocated their gratitude. The girl, a little nervously, announced that she wanted to give them a small gift today, and they, surprised, asked if she was going to introduce a new product. The boy encouraged Nina, saying that she could handle it, and she thanked both spouses for all the support they had given them. The girl held out the box in gratitude, causing Jane and Joshua to exchange confused glances, unsure of what to expect. One of the girls asked in bewilderment if it was a watch, and the boy noted with surprise that such a small watch simply could not exist, amazed by its appearance. The girl proudly presented a pair of mechanical wristwatches with automatic winding, explaining that they were made of stainless steel, were waterproof to 10 atmospheres, and did not require batteries. The 2 interlocutors were surprised and confused to learn that a wristwatch is a device worn on the wrist to tell the time, while the other 2 silently watched their reaction. The girl was alarmed, declaring that they could not accept such an incredible gift, and the man laughed and admitted that he had never heard of such a miracle before. They happily returned the gift, expressing their long-held gratitude, while another person recalled the previous moment and hesitantly initiated a conversation between the 2 women. On a narrow street between tall buildings, a girl told a boy in a trembling voice that her mother was sick and they needed to get food, and he listened to her confession in silence. 3 children chased the boy away, shouting at him, calling him dirty and ordering him to get out, and he sadly thought that no one in the city had helped him, after which he knocked on the nearest door. The girl, with tears in her eyes, apologized repeatedly and begged the woman for a piece of food, explaining that her mother was dying, then quietly closed the door behind her, remaining alone. She remembered with dismay that the only one who showed compassion was Jane, who gave her black bread, while the boy was afraid that helping poor children could ruin the reputation of the shop. The boy remembered how the girl had shared that very bread with him, and it had made him truly happy, and she had thanked him discreetly and promised never to forget her kindness. The girl with short blonde hair advised the 2 companions to check their actions by the chime of the clock, and the boy with dark hair thanked her, understanding the instructions. The boy and girl watched with a smile as the younger one joyfully called for her mother, enthusiastically telling her that a kind person had given her a piece of black bread, which she thought was the most delicious thing in the world. The girl with long hair gently assured them that God was always watching over them, explaining that this was why they were able to eat today. Through tears, the girl prayed with gratitude for the bread and left as a gift a ring, which, according to her, belonged to an angel and was the only thing she had left. She was instructed to keep her secrets in her heart, not to be ashamed of her weaknesses and to live with a kind and joyful heart, to which she quietly agreed, wiping away her tears. She was told to wait patiently for the legendary angel with silver hair and eyes, with the promise that one day God would surely reach out to her. The girl began to think about relying on Achabai-chan's strength and becoming more independent, hoping to earn the recognition of the townspeople and one day give Jane and her husband a gift made with her own efforts. 2 adults thanked him for the watch, promising to take care of it, and a girl nearby asked Joshua for a favor, to which one of the women noted how sincere his gratitude was. The girl shyly asked if she could skip the delivery tomorrow, and the smiling man assured her that it was no problem since they still had some supplies left. She asked if he was okay with accepting goods every other day, to which he replied that he was fine with receiving deliveries that frequently. She then worried about a decline in sales and possible cancellations, but he calmly assured her that everything was going according to plan. The cheerful merchant explained that the products are sold as luxury goods, they carefully select buyers and use special methods to increase the value of the goods. The 3 listened attentively, and then one of them remarked that trade was a complex and profound matter, after which the other 2 confidently declared that they would be happy to cooperate again, because they enjoyed proving their skills. They were discussing how all the guild's tasks had been completed yesterday, so there was nothing left for today. Then one of them asked why they were taking a day off and rescheduling deliveries. The girl thought about how hard they had worked to get out of the slums and decided that a little rest wouldn't hurt them. After all, free time could be spent usefully. Afterwards, they recalled how busy they'd been with training and deliveries all this time, and decided a break was well deserved. One of the boys happily agreed. She admitted that what was said was true, but she said that her main motive was the desire to thank her dear Nin and Oni, who were joyfully waving to her from afar. The girl realized with enthusiasm that she could use her imagination skill 3 times today, because they had cancelled tomorrow's delivery, and her friends were just discussing how Nin wanted to repay her debt to Jane and her husband. The cheerful little girl asked if either of them wanted anything special, and the 2 decided that since tomorrow was a day off, they could use today's skill usage on whatever they wanted. One enthusiastically declared that meat was the best, while the other quietly added that she, too, would like something tasty, as expected. The girl asked Nin what she wanted, and after a short thought, she quietly wished for the sweets that they themselves sold. The long-haired participant admitted that she, too, would like to try honey again, surprising her friend. She was embarrassed and declined, saying it was too expensive, but thanked her for her attention. Then the girl realized that her friend was simply embarrassed by the high price, since she herself was thinking only about profit and not about Nin's desire, and she apologized, noticing the surprise on her interlocutor's face. She admitted that she had been too focused on money and had not taken her friend's feelings into account, but her friend gently reassured her that everything was fine. With tears in her eyes, the girl thanked Achabai for helping them escape the slums, join the guild, and return the kindness, and the boy assured her that she had nothing to apologize for. Crying, she promised to cook a lot of delicious food as a token of gratitude for their patience, and the other 2 warmly accepted her words, expressing mutual understanding. Then she started thinking about what kind of dish would please everyone and be filling at the same time, and soon she found a suitable idea. 2 product descriptions appeared on the screen, a set of 120 pieces of aged beef priced at 99,800 yen and a box of 1,200 packets of jam priced at 32,400 yen. The trio were amazed to see the huge brown boxes, and the girl explained that one contained aromatic dried meat with Japanese garlic sauce and pepper. A girl with short blonde hair clarified that it was a soy snack with garlic and pepper, suitable even for children, after which someone worriedly asked if everything was okay with achabai. The delighted little girl explained that the second box was filled with 1,200 servings of honey in different flavors, and the two friends looked at each other in shock, not believing their eyes. Achabai cheerfully explained that for those who rarely eat sweets, this treat will cause real cat bliss, suggesting eating it with bread or simply licking it. The cheerful girl invited her brother to eat as much as he liked, and both thanked her with all their hearts, while the other thoughtfully inquired what the hostess herself would choose for dinner. The girl asked what Achabai-chan really wanted, and the little girl became confused, repeating the question to herself with an uncertain expression on her face. Then the interlocutor wondered if there was really anything that she herself desired, since dried meat and honey were more likely the desires of Nin and Oni, and the boy, smiling, insisted that Achabai also deserved what she liked. The girl, her eyes wide, wondered why Nin and Oni continued to think about her even now, and the two simply exchanged warm glances in response, as if understanding each other without words. The main character remembered how she was never abandoned in the slums, despite being a burden, and felt grateful, deciding to apologize for previously thinking only about money, not noticing the feelings of others. The two girls expressed their sincere gratitude to the little girl, and she thoughtfully realized that they had always put her above their own needs, and, stumbling, tried to find the words. The girl with short hair suddenly burst into tears, her shoulders shaking with sobs, and someone nearby asked in alarm what had happened and why she was so upset. The two friends cautiously approached her, asking why she was crying and what she was apologizing for, but she, choking with sobs, could not answer coherently, only wiping away her tears with her palms. The boy and girl promised to always be together with Nin and Oni, exchanging warm glances, and the crying baby quietly calmed herself, repeating that they would definitely continue their journey together. The three of them joyfully vowed to stay together forever, while the girl standing next to them watched them through tears, wondering what she really wanted deep down inside. Then she smiled and suggested that they all play the board game Imagination Creation, which cost 2,480 yen, and everyone's eyes lit up with interest. Achabai excitedly announced that she wanted to play the game together, and the others perked up, promising to learn if she showed them the rules. They enjoyed the honey with its soft fruity aroma, admiring its taste, but one admitted that he could not eat anymore, despite the delicacy, and another lamented that it was a shame to leave it. The cheerful girl offered to share the sweets with those who helped them, which raised the curious question of who exactly she was going to share with. At the Hunters Guild, their advance team met a woman who greeted them warmly and asked what their plans were for the day, and the guys answered cheerfully. Then the boy cheerfully explained that they had come not for work today, but to share something, and the woman, raising an eyebrow, asked in surprise what he meant. The girl with long hair thanked them with a smile for their help and handed them some delicious treats, while the other one noticed that they had brought a huge amount of meat and honey. The woman opened a small bag and remarked that it would go well with the meat, and the other explained that it contained honey of different flavors, which surprised and delighted the other woman at the generosity. She blushed with pleasure, saying that the taste was sweet, like happiness, and the other one shyly asked if it was really possible to accept such a rare gift. The woman nodded happily and decided that these treats would be her delicacy for the evening, gratefully accepting the offer. Everyone thanked the children for their care, after which one of those present noted with a smile that these children were truly wonderful, and the group headed to Master San's establishment. The girl carefully examined the transparent bag, amazed that not a drop of honey leaked out of it, and not even the aroma escaped, and she wondered what kind of technology made it possible to create such a thing. Irene looked up in surprise as the older man politely asked to see the item, his manner gentle and respectful, as if he wanted to see something for himself. The next second, the trio froze, their eyes wide open, and beads of sweat rolled down their faces. No one understood what was happening or where this would all lead. The girl sat down wearily in a chair while the narrator explained that they had accepted a task from the Hunters Guild to mow the grass, and that tomorrow they planned to take several new assignments from the notice board. The boy used fire magic to burn out the weeds, the girl used water magic to keep the flames from spreading, and only the third one felt useless, unable to find anything to do. In the morning, she cheerfully greeted all the members of the promotion team, and in response, friendly greetings and humorous remarks were heard. The girl thanked her for yesterday's treats, after which one of her interlocutors asked if she liked the sweet honey, since women often love sweets, which genuinely surprised her. However, she hotly retorted that she was not talking about honey at all, but about dried meat, while the other began to enthusiastically recall its spicy taste and how perfectly it went with ale. The girl involuntarily remembered how much Irene loved to drink, which made her friend freeze with wide eyes and hastily deny what she had heard. A man with a thick mustache calmly explained that if you divide honey into small portions, the taste becomes richer, turning even a simple stale bun into a real delicacy, and the surprised girl called him a master. Two of the team were surprised to learn that the stern-looking master turned out to have a sweet tooth, but before they could discuss it, another man approached them and asked them to stay for a minute. Three young hunters sat at the table with tense faces, sweat beading on their foreheads, while opposite them stood a group of adults whose gazes seemed searching and heavy. The atmosphere at the table was oppressive, no one dared to speak, and only one girl anxiously wondered whether they should do anything in this strange situation. Neen was shaking with fear, but the older man sitting opposite her gently apologized for the sudden call and suggested starting the meeting with an introduction. He introduced himself as Logan, the head of the Hunters Guild, and his calm voice and confident posture inspired respect and a slight awe in his interlocutors. Then a young woman named Hannah, the purchasing manager, smiled welcomingly, followed by Ethan, the deputy head of the branch, who introduced himself in a confident tone. The cheerful girl announced that she was the head receptionist, which amazed the audience, and then the stern man introduced himself as Mason, the head of supplies and the cafeteria master. The girl realized that these two, with whom she had joked and dined yesterday, actually occupied important positions, and she looked at her comrades in surprise, noticing the same amazement in their eyes. The company realized that the most influential people of the guild were gathered before them, and tension filled the room again, but one of those present hastened to assure that the news was not bad at all. Then the elder, with a kind smile, offered to sell dried meat and honey directly to the Hunters Guild, which completely stunned the trio, who had not expected such a serious offer. The girl enthusiastically suggested that more people learn about the delicious dried meat, and the man with the mustache remarked that he would like to serve it with honey and bread right in the guild cafeteria. The entire group listened in stunned silence as she clarified whether they really wanted to sell the dried meat and honey through the Hunters Guild, waiting for them to confirm their agreement. They happily agreed that it was worth sharing what they liked, and then the man in glasses carefully added that they could sell other goods, not just meat and honey. The girl suddenly noticed the transparent bag, sheepishly admitted that she had forgotten to remove the packaging with the meat, and added that she had removed the wrapper from the soap because of the Japanese writing, feeling slightly embarrassed. She then explained that the Hunters Guild accepts special delivery orders during promotions, which drew a surprised reaction from the audience. The elderly man thoughtfully admitted that he had never seen transparent bags in this world before, and the nervous girl quickly replied that it was obvious. After all, they handled the quests themselves. All three of them simultaneously cried out in surprise when she mentioned that the item was summoned by a special skill, and a tense silence fell over the room. Then the old man confidently assumed that this skill belonged to the little girl sitting next to him, and the trio immediately turned pale from surprise and alarm. The boy quickly explained that magic only worked when the three of them used it together, reminding them of their previous decision to keep the secret, and the girl strongly supported him, emphasizing the need to protect Achabai. The elder calmly noted that their magical attributes were fire, wind, and water, and then concluded that the boy's power probably came from the girl herself, who sat silently, her gaze lowered. She mentally decided to resort to her confident tactic, pretending to know more than she actually did, remembering the smug expression she already had on her face. The old man said her name thoughtfully, noting her silver hair and unusual eye color, causing the trio to flinch and look at each other, not understanding how he knew these details. Kyle tensed internally, realizing that Achabai's identity as a divine messenger had been revealed too easily, and he recalled with dismay how he had registered her under the name Ami when he joined the guild. He awkwardly admitted that all of these things were created by Achabai, and looked up in surprise when the old man mentioned Oniai, as if he had something to do with it too. The girl whispered with tears in her eyes that if anyone found out about Achabai's ability, she would be in serious trouble, and the tension in the room noticeably increased. She begged him to keep the secret and protect the baby, while she anxiously reached out to her brother, as if asking for protection and help. The older man calmly admitted that he had originally intended to test their reaction by pressuring them, which caused surprise and concern among the trio. The man with the mustache added that they thought that by entrusting everything to the guild, they could avoid suspicion, and the elder gently suggested that they consider whether they really wanted to trust the guild with their secrets. He also explained that he assumed that Irene's gifts to her were intended as a sign of affection and an attempt to draw attention to his goods, which caused the girl to look up in confusion. The girl quickly justified herself by saying that they only wanted to share the treat out of gratitude for their kindness, but the other interlocutor responded skeptically, doubting her words, and even declared that he was eating their meat as if it belonged to him. An elderly man frowned and remarked that he had not yet eaten during the meeting, but someone off camera immediately scolded him for acting like a real old man. The man with the mustache stated that Achabi's ability alone was not enough, which surprised the girl and the boy, and then added with a nervous laugh that this talk was already starting to drive him crazy. He listened intently as the woman explained that his magical abilities were the talk of the guild, after which the scene changed to other hunters talking admiringly about their successes in magic lessons. The bespectacled man solemnly announced that the Hunters Guild wished to begin negotiations with the advancement team, and two of those present exchanged glances, not hiding their wary curiosity. The girl proposed officially supplying dried meat and honey to the Hunters Guild, and the elder approved of her decision, adding that this would help provide the three with reliable protection. The older man sensibly explained that it was natural for a guild to surround itself with talented hunters, and the children thanked him joyfully, feeling a sense of anticipation for a new life away from the slums. The man in glasses clarified the details of the deliveries and conditions. Another suggested that they were talking about 100 packages of meat and honey, and the girl wondered about the frequency of deliveries for Joshua's store. After nervously asking if all the types included 10 different types of honey, she received an affirmative answer and felt her excitement build. Then she proposed creating 1,000 portions, which astonished everyone. They were seriously concerned about whether she would be able to handle such a volume in 2 or 3 days without overexerting herself. The cheerful girl assured him with a smile that she wouldn't feel any fatigue, while the two people standing nearby merely exchanged quiet, surprised glances. The man in glasses hesitantly agreed to carry out the plan within reasonable limits, and the girl reminded him that it was worth leaving a small reserve in case of unforeseen circumstances. He offered to supply 100 portions of dried meat and small packets of honey every 5 days, and she agreed without hesitation, genuinely happy with the stability. The elder thanked them and declared it was now time to discuss compensation, promising that the Hunters Guild would provide them with protection. Then the little girl timidly asked what exactly they wanted in return. The girl turned to her brother for advice, but he gently said that Achabi should make the decision, and the second participant immediately agreed with this proposal. They decided to let Achabi-chan do as she pleased, and after thinking for a moment, the little girl nodded seriously, as if accepting the responsibility for her choice. During the meeting, one of the group members explained that they hoped that if trouble came, the guild would be able to act as a mediator and resolve the conflict. The older man asked doubtfully whether simple mediation would be enough, to which the young woman replied that in some situations the laws could work against them. She added with concern that if the guild encountered nobles or influential people, it would not be able to act freely, so it can only hope for the common sense of the parties. The elder noted with a light laugh that, despite her young age, the girl had a sharp mind and mature reasoning, which evoked respectful glances from the audience. In conclusion, the elderly man confidently promised that the Hunters Guild would mediate in all disputes and would always take their side, causing the young participants to joyfully applaud and thank him. The bespectacled man explained that the previous reward only covered protection from the Hunters Guild, and compensation for supplies would be discussed separately. The girl looked up in surprise, realizing he was referring to a new agreement. The companion reassured Achabi, assuring him that the guild was not going to appropriate anything without a fair price, and the boy, blushing slightly, hastened to deny suspicions of deception, insisting that he did not think so. Then the bespectacled man asked if they had any suggestions regarding the reward for the deliveries. The three listened attentively, and soon one of them was given the opportunity to make his own suggestions. The girl offered to earn a steady income by supplying products to Joshua's shop, but this time she didn't ask for money, but for something rarer and more valuable, something difficult to obtain under normal conditions. She asked if they could again choose the reward themselves, and that it didn't have to be monetary. The man agreed, on the condition that the guild would formalize the deal, prompting the other two to applaud joyfully. Then the little girl cheerfully suggested creating a patch of tall grass in the courtyard of the guild where they now live, which caused surprise and smiles among the listeners. The boy supported the idea, calling it excellent, and another participant enthusiastically added that they were probably talking about the northern part of the courtyard. The elder asked if anyone knew more about this place. The man in glasses explained that the area had not been maintained for a long time and had practically no value, as it had long been overgrown with grass and weeds. The elder doubted the land's usefulness, but the trio quickly agreed to take it, bowing gratefully. Thus, their first deal with the guild was successfully concluded. After a tense moment, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. One admitted that he was tired and nervous, another agreed that it had been a bit scary, and then everyone joyfully celebrated the appearance of their own plot. In conversation, they admitted that they often rely on her, realizing how much the girl has done for everyone, despite her modesty. She sheepishly denied any credit, claiming that she had merely helped with the weeding, although most of the work had been done with the help of magic. The girl finally grew tired after the long negotiations and fell asleep right there. Then the boy carefully picked her up and entrusted her care to his friend. 2 days later, a man with a mustache came to visit, greeting them warmly and hoping his visit would be a good time. The two greeters returned the warm greeting with smiles. Looking around, the man noted that everything inside was arranged surprisingly neatly, despite the modest appearance, and another added that the place seemed spacious and cozy. The day before, 9 had used water magic to stop the fire from spreading, while Oniai had burned away the weeds with flames, and their coordinated work had impressed all onlookers. The guest admired their ability to control the elements, praising both of them for their coordination, and the two young hunters animatedly spoke about their experiences with fire magic. The man inquired about the large iron box on wheels, and the boy happily announced that it was their new home, a minivan, which astonished the girl, who had heard the word for the first time. The man with the mustache remarked that the mobile home looked a little cramped, but his companion countered that it was neat, warm, and ideal for a small group. He looked closely at the bluish-silver metal machine with windows, noting that its previous purpose was unknown, but it looked impressive and quite suitable for life. The mustachioed man narrowly escaped danger, insisting on finishing the job first. At that moment, the girl joyfully announces the arrival of cardboard boxes containing the necessary items. The girl excitedly explains that she packed 100 packages of dried meat and 10 types of honey, 100 pieces of each, into cardboard boxes for food and snacks, while the man examines the contents in confusion. The man with the mustache asks doubtfully if he can take the whole box, but the girl reassures him, saying that it's just a container, nothing unusual. They discuss the surprisingly light and strong cardboard. One is amazed, and the other remarks that paper is a valuable thing, and making boxes out of it is too wasteful. The man admits that the box is convenient for carrying light things, but is vulnerable to water and quickly deteriorates, and the other suddenly remembers that it is also paper, which evokes associations with something familiar. A man with a mustache explains that this isn't a guild quest, so taxes and fees don't apply. Meanwhile, a boy and 2 girls listen, and one of them shows a completion report, combined with a land transfer document. One of the men adds with a smile that the land was given to them almost for free, so a 20% tax cannot reduce the price below zero, to which another laughs and calls it an American joke, and a third points to a personal request on the second page of the document. They review the prices of the delivered goods, discussing continuous supplies, and the man assures that the price is fair, despite the surprise of his interlocutors. The girl hesitantly asks if the land is their only reward, but the man sternly explains that the guild does not engage in deception and she will receive the payment due. The man adds that if the guild had accepted dried meat and honey as payment, it would have undermined its reputation, since the plot has virtually no market value and was given away for next to nothing. He explains that fulfilling the assigned request requires a strict order of actions, and the result will be recorded as an achievement in the guild's archive. The girl, slightly nervous, asks if this is permissible and receives an affirmative answer. The girl is stunned by the large sums Joshua's shop pays out every few days, unable to comprehend the scale of the profit. The man suggests spending some of the money in the guild's dining hall, and the entire group happily agrees. The man insists that the delivered goods be taken to the guild, but the boy suggests using a folding cart. The man notes with surprise that it only has wheels and nothing else. Everyone is amazed when the object suddenly unfolds and transforms into a fully functional cart. One exclaims in delight that it's amazing, while another asks in bewilderment what even happened. The man explains that they already used this item when they moved, after which the boy smiles awkwardly, and the other offers to use the cart again, since it is at hand. The man with the mustache grins slyly and asks if they want to join, causing the girl with the sparkling eyes to happily ask if that is indeed possible. They delivered the goods to the Hunters Guild and returned home. One thanked them for the handy item, while the other thoughtfully noted what still remained to be done. The man asks her a question she's been thinking about and points to a large round structure, explaining that it's a trampoline, a jumping device. A girl enthusiastically shows off a huge outdoor trampoline installed in the garden, explaining that you can bounce high into the sky on it. Two others laugh and agree that it's really fun. The man asks doubtfully if bouncing can be interesting, since it's hard for an adult to get aroused by such things. The girl suggests giving it a try, the chance is rare, after all, and he reluctantly agrees, deciding to test her creation himself. A young man in an apron jumps up and down joyfully, shouting loudly in delight, and then his jubilation is shown in close-up, with a wide, beaming smile. The girl explains that her imaginary creations skill can be used 3 times a day, and she saved one for tomorrow's delivery to Joshua. She happily notes that Master San is enjoying the trampoline. The girl tries to imagine something new, but after failing, decides to choose a cheaper option, while the man with the mustache watches silently. She excitedly announces that everything worked out, and then reasons that when using a skill, the deciding factor is not the size or weight, but the cost, given her level and the materials available. 2 children excitedly notice another of Otabi's creations next to the slide, and the man with the mustache reacts with surprise and a little excitement. A girl explains what a slide is while the others watch with interest. One man refuses to try it, claiming he's too big, but she cheerfully persuades him to give it a try. The man with the mustache enthusiastically admits that he had a great time and learned a lot, glad that he came today, and the 3 little ones happily invite him to come again. They discuss how the master has been with them all morning without doing any work, and wonder if he is simply killing time, given that he holds an important position in the guild. He nonchalantly replies that it is no big deal if someone has a free day, and the girl remarks how nice it is to have so much time to rest, while the other doubts that anyone would dare to scold an influential person. The man with the mustache admits that what he saw exceeded his expectations, after which the whole company gathers around the table, where he begins to talk about a place called Promission. The girl uses water magic to stop the fire from spreading, and the boy uses fire magic to burn away the weeds. The man remarks that the garden is well kept thanks to their magic. The man acknowledges the boy's outstanding abilities, the girl admires the new hunter's skill, and the other notes with interest the unusual use of magic. A man with a mustache explains that the little girl's ability isn't limited to small objects, but allows her to create much larger-scale creations. Another participant clarifies whether they are indeed talking about large-scale creations. He describes a huge slide, a large jumping basket 5 meters wide, a mobile iron and glass house on wheels, and a shiny metal cart that is surprisingly easy to pull. The man with the mustache admits that the girl's work is done at an amazingly high level, and the other, in the hat, suggests that they see everything with their own eyes, because it's hard to believe without proof. The girl enthusiastically confirms that the dried meat turned out to be incredibly tasty, and the man confidently adds that the cart showed no signs of damage, despite its heavy weight and speed. The girl admires the strength of the metal cart and notes that it folds easily, and the boy eagerly offers to deliver it to the Hunters Guild, impressed by its reliability. The girl asks if Achabai-shan can create anything at any time, but the man explains that the ability has limits, and the other adds that she can create without getting tired, albeit with limitations. An elderly man imagines a red-furred puppy, a blue rabbit, and a small gray chinchilla, all endowed with magical and creative powers, and then apologizes while a girl assures him that they are very obedient. The old man smiles and remarks that the animals are adorable, adding that the other man looks at them as if they were his grandchildren, while the dark-haired figure watches quietly nearby. The 4 adults unanimously agree that despite the children's enormous strength, they are still children, and therefore it is the adults who must watch them closely and support them with due responsibility. The girl happily slides down the slide while being reminded to be careful with church representatives and not to repeat the fate of the previous divine messenger. At Madame Mary's pharmacy, the owner, with a warm smile, entrusts the preparation of potions to the trio from the Promise team, expressing her complete trust in them. The 3 characters enthusiastically express their joy at working together, while one of them, standing on a chair, explains that the direct assignment is to help with the making of potions. The lawn they had been mowing the day before belonged to Mrs. Mary. Onii had used fire magic to burn the weeds, and Neen had been holding the flames in with water. That was what had attracted the lady to the task. The woman says she brought her granddaughter today and asks for mutual support, and the girl silently thinks about helping those around Onii and Neen who are also capable of wielding magic. The hostess's granddaughter, a shy girl named Alice, awkwardly introduces herself and says that she will be helping out today, and the others greet her with joy and goodwill. A cheerful woman suggests getting down to business, and a girl with long hair hopes that the two newcomers will become friends, noticing the interest of one of them and the other due to their similar ages. The woman explains the process in detail to Alice, who promises to remember all the steps and keep records, while the boy suggests doing something secretly, after which they quietly step aside. The panel depicts a set of school stationery for girls, priced at 7,880 yen, including scissors, glue, an eraser, and a notebook with a picture of a kitten. An elderly woman begins explaining the ingredients of the powder in the jar, while three younger children listen attentively. One girl quietly repeats the words the right amount to herself, trying to remember them. Selen asks what happened, and Adabi apologizes for bothering her and explains that in cooking classes, people always get confused with the term the right amount. The girl timidly asks why the woman doesn't measure the powder, and she explains that she relies on years of experience and intuition, much to the listener's genuine surprise. The woman explains that a sense of proportion is most important in creating potions, because it is at such moments that the potion maker demonstrates his true skill, and the boy reacts with an amazed look. The two girls look uncertain, doubting their abilities as beginners, but the woman gently reassures them that precise measurements are not required for such a small amount of powder. The girl considers how difficult it would be to measure substances with the current level of technology in this world, and then decides to try again, while the boy steps aside. The screen shows a chemical measuring kit worth 13,800 yen, then a girl suddenly asks what it is, and another enthusiastically offers to measure the pinch of powder Mary-san took. The girl begins to suspect that her secret use of the ability has been discovered. The other two whisper anxiously, and the older woman confirms with a kind smile that such a power does indeed exist. The woman kindly agrees to try a different measuring method, after which the entire group, including the girl with short hair, prepares to continue working. The girl decides to keep track of time with a timer while simultaneously heating the vessel with fire magic, and asks if it is possible to pour water by eye while pouring it directly into the bowl. The older woman finishes explaining the process and asks if there are any questions, to which the girl hesitantly replies that everything will probably be fine, and the boy enthusiastically promises to try his best. The girl nervously notices that they look worried, but reassures them by holding something important in her hands. At that moment, the woman gently interrupts her, and the other prepares to continue her training with Alice. The girl asks if Adabi is going to measure anything again, but she replies that one measurement at the beginning is enough. A girl with short hair suggests they try making the potion themselves, shocking the others. They exclaim her name in amazement, and the woman asks if her explanation is enough. The girl hesitantly says she's not sure they can make the potion themselves, but her cheerful partner confidently replies that all the steps and dosages are written down, and her magical abilities will help. The boy enthusiastically agrees, and the girl with long hair smiles softly, saying that she trusts the younger one's opinion, and the younger one beams with happiness, while the other one reacts with surprise. The woman encourages the girl to try cooking something herself while she gets some rest, and she happily agrees. The girl with short hair decides to take charge of measuring the powder since the others don't understand Arabic numerals, and then asks Neen to fill the measuring cup with water to the marked level. Kyle enthusiastically orders the water to be heated with fire magic and to stop on a signal, to which the boy vigorously agrees, while Lyria watches silently, noting the speed and coordination of the work. They joyfully celebrate the successful preparation of the potion. Although the girl doubts its accuracy, the color is different from Mary-san's potions, but the boy confidently declares that everything worked out. The girl nervously asks if everything is okay with the potion, and then internally panics, fearing that they have ruined everything. The girl anxiously admits that they did it, but the color turned out strange, and Mary-san, with a warm smile, asks to see the result. The girl is surprised when the man holding the potion praises its rich color and strong mana, noting that the fire magic was used so skillfully that the energy leakage is minimal. The girl and the boy exchange nervous glances, and the woman says with a smile that they have a bright future and will definitely become excellent magicians if they are able to brew such potions. One girl happily congratulates her friends, who shyly thank her, while another anxiously asks permission to join them next time. The woman, with a satisfied smile, agrees to entrust the preparation of potions to the young men, and will herself take care of other things, while the girl listens attentively to her among the shelves filled with bottles. Everyone expresses their willingness to work together, one shyly asks for support, and a cheerful girl decisively announces that it's time to get back to work. She feels tired, like a 5-year-old child after a long period of concentration, realizing that only she can understand the Arabic numerals on measuring instruments and give precise instructions. The girl with short hair hesitantly explains how to use the table and notes for measurements. The boy thanks her with a smile, and both feel relieved and confident. Reina quickly calls out to Atabi, who is starting to nod off, while Lyria calmly remarks that it is time for a nap, and the young man looks at them in surprise. The girl wakes up, sleepily apologizing for falling asleep while working, but the woman gently reassures her and asks with a smile if the other three are still preparing potions nearby. The woman struggles to decipher the small print on the herb supply report, admitting that reading has become difficult with age, and the girl wonders if Mary-san is far-sighted. She decides that reading glasses would be a good gift after hearing praise for Oni and Nin, but wonders if they would be suitable for her vision, as everyone's vision is different. The girl happily uses a magnifying glass to examine the character profile of 5-year-old Ami, with detailed characteristics and skills described in the document. She is thrilled to think that she can now use the skill imagination creation 4 times a day and will be able to create another useful item. The girl happily notes that she is one step closer to recovery, as her condition has changed from emaciated to stunted and thin, but is suddenly surprised to notice something unusual. The black-haired girl is curious about the origin of the strange object, admitting that she has never seen anything like it, and the younger one enthusiastically offers to try it out. The girl explains how a magnifying glass works, showing how the letters on a report become larger when viewed through a magnifying glass. A woman delightedly remarks on how much larger the text has become, while another shyly asks if the device is expensive and begs to keep it. The girl happily offers to help with the potion making in gratitude for the kind words about her talented brother and sister, and the woman, a little embarrassed, agrees, feeling a little uneasy. The girl with short blonde hair excitedly remarks that the report is all numbers, and the woman with dark hair is relieved that Mary-san no longer has difficulty reading. The girl cheerfully begins to check the document from above, but suddenly realizes with horror that there was a mistake in the calculations. She is stunned to realize that the final calculations on the delivery report are incorrect, feeling a wave of excitement wash over her. The younger girl is worried that because of her age, no one will listen to her, and thinks that even if she shows her a calculator, Mary-san will not understand the calculation process itself. The panel depicts an abacus costing 3,080 yen, and the girl with short hair hopes that by explaining the calculations, she can show where exactly the error was. The girl proudly announces that she has a level 4 abacus certification, and when she hears someone call her name, she remembers mentally performing the calculations by picturing the abacus in her head. A girl enthusiastically demonstrates an abacus, explaining that it is a device for calculations, and a woman standing nearby asks with interest what it is and why it is used. The girl admits that she saw a lot of numbers in the document and decided that a calculator would help her figure it out, to which the woman asks in surprise whether such a tool even exists in this world. She looks at the abacus with curiosity, noting its neat execution, and the other girl sheepishly says that she noticed one detail when she tried to use it earlier. The girl points out a calculation error, and the woman with the paper in her hands agrees, acknowledges the mistake and gratefully praises her, and both share a warm, joyful smile. The cheerful girl handed the boy an abacus, which surprised him, but seeing that he was looking at the gift with interest, she explained that this was her way of thanking him for his kind words, although he sheepishly asked whether he could really accept such a thing. She felt a warm happiness and noted that, apart from Niini and Nin, this was the first time she had ever talked to someone alone for so long, and given so many gifts. The cheerful girl asked how the work on the potions was going, and the two replied that they had done well, although it had been difficult, after which they quietly asked Alice how her experiment had gone, but she only remained silent. The girl proudly said that she did everything herself, remembering how she used to always rely on her grandmother, who measured the ingredients for her. She added enthusiastically that the most amazing thing is the ability to weigh accurately and follow the steps to get the same result every time. Joyfully explaining, she noted that now even an inexperienced grandmother would be able to correctly measure ingredients and make potions that would always be the same. The girl was surprised to learn that Alice was able to create potions on her own, and another character did not hide his amazement when he saw an unexpected side to her. The narrator noted that her family had been in the pharmaceutical business for generations, and her parents were also famous alchemists. Remembering her mother, who wielded water magic and always gave her a soft smile, and her father, who wielded fire magic and gently stroked her head, she sadly realized that she would never see them again. 4 years ago, on their way to the capital with a load of goods, their cart was said to have fallen off a cliff. Now the girl studied with her grandmother in a shop filled with memories of her parents, and firmly decided to become a real pharmacist, so that the name of Pharmacist Alice would become known to everyone. She was irritated that despite following her grandmother's instructions precisely, the potions still didn't turn out as expected. The grandmother thoughtfully said that success in this business depended on talent, and the girl listened to these words with anxiety, watching her every day in the kitchen. 3 young hunters came into the shop, enthusiastically expressing their desire to help, while a voiceover narrated a story about a direct order from their grandmother. A gentle girl skilled in water magic and a cheerful guy capable of controlling fire introduced themselves as peers and comrades. An elderly woman was demonstrating the process of making potions, and next to her stood a small child who was incapable of using magic. The girl began weighing the powdered herbs and writing down the data, interrupting her grandmother's explanation, who watched in surprise at the unfamiliar instruments her granddaughter had acquired. She took careful notes, recording the amount of mana-infused water and the duration of the fire magic, musing that her grandmother usually only explained the process once at the beginning. The girl eagerly asked if she could try brewing the potion herself, which surprised the boy and the other girl, and the woman skeptically noted that it was unlikely to work. Despite 4 years of training under her grandmother's guidance, the girl still experienced difficulties, but she confidently agreed to accept help from the boy and girl, deciding to try again. The woman was amazed at the quality of the potion, noting its rich color and praising the boy and girl for their magical abilities, predicting a brilliant future for them. A boy who could maintain a stable flame and a girl who could create water infused with mana were introduced, while another watched them with thoughtful interest, assessing their skills. The girl excitedly declared that the most impressive of them all was little Otabi, and the woman, slightly nervous, thought that her measuring tools and detailed instructions were even more astonishing. She realized that even without her grandmother, with such tools, she could cope with any important task. With this in mind, she asked him to join them in making potions together, and the boy happily agreed, after which the girl happily prepared the potion without her grandmother's help. With tears in her eyes, she reflected that after 4 years of failure, she had finally succeeded, although on the outside, every previous potion looked the same. The story explained that the grandmother determined the proportions of ingredients intuitively, starting with the first and calculating the rest by ratio. The girl explained that traditional apothecaries relied on intuition and the oral instructions of masters, while Otabi carefully measured and recorded every dose. She was able to create the potion using a new method that eliminated quality fluctuations and allowed for consistent results with each iteration. The girl noted that she had never seen such precise instruments, capable of measuring even a tiny amount of powder, although this required special equipment. The tools Otabi brought seemed enchanted, and she longed to keep them for herself, but she knew that they belonged to Otabi and her friends, who would soon be leaving. The girl remembered how difficult it was to brew potions without measuring instruments, feeling helpless, until someone softly called her name, expressing concern. The cheerful girl announced that all the tools used today would remain in the shop, which astonished the others, and one of them thoughtfully noted that they would only be used here. The girl happily handed over the notebook, declaring that she would leave everything to them, and the 2 people nearby agreed, confirming that they approved of any decision Otabi made. The girl hesitantly asked if this was really allowed, pointing to the expensive instruments, but the other one confidently assured that everything was fine, then thought about what was happening. The girl hesitated shyly, but the other one happily invited her to play next time, sincerely expressing a desire to become friends. Kyle enthusiastically supported the idea, which delighted the girl, who happily noticed that she had made a friend, and he offered to be friends, while the other watched with a quiet smile. The woman said with relief that she was glad to see Alice finally making friends, as she had previously worried that she was bored, and the little girl happily called her by name. In the shop, Two women exchanged warm words, gratefully discussing the successful day and promising to send new orders, while three children happily promised to return. The girl was delighted to realize that, despite all the difficulties, she had found her first real friend, and the next day at the Hunters Guild they happily talked about their new friendship and plans to invite Alice to play. The girl greeted Irina cheerfully, but immediately turned pale, noticing that she looked exhausted and overloaded with work. Here. The girl happily handed over the notebook, declaring that she would leave everything to them, and the two people nearby agreed, confirming that they approved of any decision ought to be made. The girl hesitantly asked if this was really allowed, pointing to the expensive instruments, but the other one confidently assured that everything was fine, then thought about what was happening. The girl hesitated shyly, but the other one happily invited her to play next time, sincerely expressing a desire to become friends. Kyle enthusiastically supported the idea, which delighted the girl, who happily noticed that she had made a friend, and he offered to be friends,